Good day, everybody. My name's CB, and I'm the Group Commercial Director for VPS. 12 months ago, if the world's population had the benefit of 2020 vision, would we have stopped the clocks or chosen fast forward to 2021? Without doubt, the year 2020 has been one of the most challenging in terms of human health and business. Unfortunately, shipping and the bunker industry have not escaped the health issues or the business downturn in a year which was always going to raise its own specific challenges to the industry in terms of the new IMO 2020 regulation. The 1st of January 2020 probably saw the biggest change in marine fuel since ships switched from burning coal to burning some form of oil. For ship owners and operators, the key question was which strategic decision would be best for their business in a world of more stringent environmental regulations under IMO 2020. As the world's largest marine fuel testing and advisory company, I will share with you today exactly what VPS have witnessed during the first year of this new era of marine fuel usage and management. On passing the 1st of January 2020, VPS witnessed an immediate and significant switch to VLSFO fuels in the marine fuel supply and demand market. VLSFOs account for 66% of all bunkered fuel tested by VPS between January to September 2020. The MGO market share is at 12% over the same period, highlighting the anticipated increase in demand never actually materialized. HSFO now accounts for 20% of all samples tested by VPS and has been increasing month on month since February, indicating an increasing use of scrubbers over the course of the year. Whilst the year started very strongly for bunkering volumes, the COVID-19 pandemic played a significant role in decreasing bunker fuel demand between the start of March and the end of June, but we have seen a slow recovery since July. The fall in crude oil pricing and subsequent marine fuel price drop did not see a rise in demand for MGO or a fall in demand for HSFO, as one may have expected. If we use VPS bunker alerts, which are reports of short-term fuel quality issues in specific ports for specific test parameters, as an indicator of overall fuel quality, VPS issued 37 alerts between January and September 2020, versus only 18 over the same time period in 2019. However, these are not for one single fuel type, but MGO, HFO, and VLSFO have all required an increased number of bunker alerts this year. For MGO, the most common quality concern parameter is flash point. For HSFO, the most common parameters requiring bunker alerts are flash point and density, whilst for VLSFOs, as one would expect, the bunker alerts have been predominantly related to sediment and stability issues. From a regional perspective, we've seen an increase in bunker alerts for Singapore and a much wider geographical spread of bunker alerts in general this year. Due to the current COVID-19 pandemic, the levels of both land-based and aerospace transportation have significantly reduced, and as a result, automotive and aviation fuels have been in surplus and become relatively cheaper. It's possible this has encouraged the potential increase in the use of automotive gas oil and aviation fuels, which have a significantly lower flash point than marine fuels, as blending components. Such a practice would lower the flash point of marine fuels. From 37 bunker alerts VPS issued between January and September 2020, 17 related to flash point, with 9 for MGO, 5 for VLSFO, and 3 for HSFO. Over the same time period of 2019, VPS issued only 8 flashpoint related bunker alerts, and all of those were for MGO. If we now consider VLSFOs as the most current purchased and used marine fuel type in 2020, we see that 6.2% of these fuels exceed at least one test parameter specification, with sulfur accounting for 52% of those off-specification incidents in September of this year. For a few months now, Europe has been the region showing the highest number of VLSFO off-specs, with 15% of all European samples tested exceeding at least one test parameter specification. North America is the next worst in terms of off-specs, with almost 1 in 10. For all the main bunkering regions, VPS are now seeing the average sulfur content at compliant levels, but on occasion, in every region, we are seeing some significant maximum spikes between 0.55% to 1% sulfur. In September, 3.6% of all samples tested exceeded the 0.50 sulfur level. In terms of the 95% confidence limits, 2.8% of samples were between 0.51 and 0.53% sulfur, with only 0.8% of samples tested exceeding the upper limit of 0.53%. Sulfur off-specs have varied across the year from 6% in December down to 1.1% in April, rising again thereafter to 3.6% in September. Since VPS first began testing VLSFOs, their stability has always been an area requiring additional concentration. The fact that many VLSFOs are highly blended fuels with a varying mix of aromatic and paraffinic components leads to a greater potential for the fuel to destabilize, forming asphaltenic sludges, waxes, or both. Greater attention is required regarding the fuel's storage conditions, transfer and burning following receipt on board, in order to avoid operational problems which can occur with these blended products. TSP accounted for 3.6% of the VLSFO off specifications in September 2020, but the average TSP values across the world's bunkering regions are on specification with values between 0.01 to 0.02%. However, VPS have witnessed many stability issues without the TSP being off specification. Where VLSFOs have been tested as stable when bunkered, some within only a few weeks have become unstable, indicating their storage lifespan is much shorter than the more traditional marine fuels. So the average shelf life of a VLSFO is less than 3 months, compared to an HSFO at 6 months and an MGO at 12 months. Another concern with regard to VLSFO stability are the cold flow properties. Due to higher paraffinic content within VLSFOs, there is a far greater potential for the fuel to precipitate wax. Maintaining the fuel above the wax appearance temperature, or WAT, will always ensure the fuel will flow freely. However, the latest data has shown that the average WAT is 21 degrees centigrade greater than the average pour point. Therefore, traditional industry advice of storing fuels at 10 degrees centigrade above the fuel's pour point is no longer a trusted guideline in many cases, as the fuel may produce wax at a much higher temperature than 10 degrees above pour point. The majority of VLSFOs are exhibiting pour points of less than 30 degrees centigrade, yet more than 67% of WAT values are greater than 30 degrees centigrade. In addition, if a fuel has precipitated wax, the temperatures required to then dissolve that wax, the wax disappearance temperature, is currently on average 13 degrees higher than the average WAT, with more than 70% of VLSFOs having a wax disappearance temperature of greater than 40 degrees. Therefore, wax appearance temperature, wax disappearance temperature, and pour point are all key operational parameters in avoiding the waxing of VLSFOs. From the outset, VLSFOs were exhibiting higher cat fine levels than HFOs. In January, 22% of samples showed a cat fine level of greater than 40 ppm. However, more recently, VLSFO cat fine levels have reduced quite significantly across all major bunker regions, and we now see only 11% of samples with cat fines greater than 40 ppm, and only 0.5% of samples tested are greater than the 60 ppm limit. One of the initial issues witnessed by VLSFO were the extremely wide range of viscosities exhibited by these fuels. This is still the situation with a viscosity range going from 2 centistokes to 590 centistokes in September. Having said this, the majority of VLSFOs fall between 20 centistokes and 110 centistokes. This is still a fair way off the 380 centistokes which shipping was used to pre-IMO 2020. Currently, 95% of VLSFOs have a viscosity of less than 280 centistokes, and 86% of the viscosities are less than 180 centistokes. Of course, viscosity is such a key parameter with respect to fuel storage, transfer, handling, and fuel injection into the engine, that it is vital viscosity is known in order to ensure efficient vessel operation. Like viscosity, the densities of VLSFOs were initially very wide-ranging. To a point, this is still the situation, with the current range falling between 830 to 990 kilograms per meter cubed. However, the majority of samples tested fall between 920 to 980 kilograms per meter cubed. This more consistent range certainly helps with respect to purifier operations on board. During the first quarter of 2020, VPS identified significant engine damage arising in more than 40 vessels. This engine damage has been in the form of hard, abrasive deposits on piston crowns, excessive cylinder liner wear, and broken piston rings. As a consequence of these damages, VPS undertook a comprehensive investigation. The investigation identified that the reserve base number in the cylinder oil was not being utilized to neutralize the acids formed during the fuel combustion process as it is its purpose. This resulted in calcium compounds being deposited on the piston crown, which became hard and abrasive, causing the liner wear, liner scuffing, and piston ring breakage, resulting in serious operational issues. It is worth noting, in general, when the base number is reduced, the lubricating oil detergency reduces and the oil film is lost. But when base number increases, the detergency improves and the oil film is retained, but then calcium deposit formation may start. A number of preventative actions may be taken by ship operators using VLSFOs to protect the engines and avoid operational issues arising from excessive liner wear. Primarily, undertaking cylinder scrape-down analysis will identify if an adequate lubricating oil formation is being used, which may be further confirmed by a sweep test. In addition to this, the ship operator should closely monitor engine operation during an introduction of new VLSFO fuel and changeover of VLSFO to MGO or MGO to VLSFO when entering or leaving an ECA. So I think you will agree 2020 has had numerous challenges, not only in terms of pandemic, human health and business, but also the challenges that the new VLSFO fuels have raised and caused throughout the course of the year. I thank you very much for your time and look forward to questions following this presentation.